Do Gen Z lack confidence? Let's talk about that perception. It's said that they struggle in workplace confidence, and if they do, what have we got to do differently? You've heard things like they don't speak up, they hesitate, they wait for instructions, they crumble under pressure. And if you're managing young professionals, graduates, early career engineers, new project staff, you probably said something like it, or you might have thought it. And the shorthand we use is they lack confidence. And here's the thing, you're not wrong. There's a confidence gap showing up with Gen Z at work. Data backs that up. But, and this matters, it's not for the reasons most people assume. And if we diagnose it wrong, we'll keep throwing the wrong solutions at it. So that's what I want to talk about. What's actually going on? Why most corporate interventions miss the mark? And what organisations that get it right are doing differently. Gen Z's grown up with significantly higher levels of anxiety than previous generations at the same age. We're talking roughly 4 times more prevalent than baby boomers, twice as high as Gen X. And in the UK by 2022, over a third of 18 to 24-year-olds reported anxiety or depression. That's up from about a quarter in 2000. Now, high anxiety doesn't mean low competence, but here's what it does mean. Anxiety erodes certainty, and confidence is essentially the willingness to act in spite of uncertainty. So for a lot of young employees, the problem isn't, I can't do this. It's, I'm not sure I can do this well enough, or fast enough, or without being judged. That's a completely different starting point, and it requires a different response. Here's the second factor. Gen Z is the first generation to live their entire adolescence under continuous social comparison. Every generation compared themselves to peers, but previous generations compared themselves to maybe a few hundred people, a school, a neighbourhood, a social circle. Gen Z compare themselves to millions across careers, fitness, relationships, wealth, aesthetics, lifestyle, purpose. And what does that create? A constant sense of relative inadequacy. Even very competent young adults self-assess themselves harshly because the comparison set's completely unrealistic. Research shows that many Gen Z respondents describe presenting an idealised self online that diverges from their real life. An identity built on constant external validation creates fragile confidence, high when praise is flowing, brittle when challenged, and silent when risk is involved. And that's exactly what managers see. Young employees who are expressive on social media, but hesitant when the stakes feel real. Client meetings, senior presentations, conflicts with colleagues. Here's where it gets interesting, because not all evidence points to Gen Z as less confident in a global sense. Actually, Gen Z are often more willing to speak out about values, ethics, and social issues. They're more prepared to challenge unfairness. They're quicker to leave environments that don't align with their expectations. So what's going on? There's a distinction here that matters a lot. Gen Z often have strong expressive confidence, willingness to voice opinions and values. What they lack is directional confidence, clarity about what to do when they're going, whether they're on the right path. And they lack situational confidence, the ability to act under ambiguity and pressure. Psychologically, this makes sense. You can be confident in your values and still feel deeply unsure about your place in a volatile economy. You can articulate what's wrong without knowing what to do about it. And the surveys show that around a third of 18 to 24-year-olds say they're not confident making decisions at work without all the necessary information. They grew up in an environment that minimises ambiguity. Think about modern organisations. They've become more ambiguous. That mismatch shows up as a lack of confidence. Now we get to the real issue, the one that most organisations are missing. Previous generations developed their workplace confidence through an informal apprenticeship, where they would watch experienced colleagues, learning in person and through osmosis, trying, failing, being corrected in low visibility environments, gradually being trusted with more responsibility. For Gen Z, that ladder's broken. They entered the workforce during or just after the pandemic. Remote work stripped away any informal learning and peer modelling. They dropped into lean teams where middle management has been squeezed, leaving fewer people with time to coach. Their early career experience are heavily mediated through screens where nuance and safe practice spaces are thinner. Here's the kicker. Self-efficacy research, the psychology of confidence, shows that the strongest source of confidence is mastery experiences. Doing something hard, seeing it work, integrating that into your self-story. If the environment doesn't give you those experiences in a scaffolded way, you don't develop robust confidence. No matter how many motivational messages you hear, no matter how many wellbeing workshops you attend, confidence is earned through behaviour, not given through inspiration. So let's talk about what most organisations are doing and why it's not working. The typical corporate response clusters around wellbeing and mental health support, resilience workshops, mentoring schemes, speak-up campaigns, personality assessments, and generic leadership workshops. All of these can be useful, but they're too indirect to shift the behaviours that organisations actually care about. Decision making under ambiguity, ownership, communication under pressure, and staying constructive in conflict. Here's the problem. Elevated anxiety means unstructured exposure to pressure can actually backfire. It deepens avoidance rather than building confidence. Continuous comparison means young employees may interpret normal feedback as evidence of personal inadequacy, not developmental information, and role ambiguity, not knowing exactly what's expected, is strongly correlated with burnout in Gen Z. So the interventions that work are different. They reduce unnecessary ambiguity. They provide structured, repeated practice of the exact behaviours that currently trigger avoidance. They normalise anxiety as part of growth, not evidence of inadequacy. And they offer high quality feedback focused on specific behaviours, not vague personality traits. So here's the reframe. Gen Z is not uniquely weak, they're not lazy, and they're not entitled. They're operating under historically high levels of anxiety and comparison in a labour market that's removed many of the informal structures that used to build confidence. What appears as a lack of confidence is largely directional uncertainty, low tolerance of ambiguity, and under-practiced interpersonal skills in real-world contexts. Traditional wellbeing only approaches, they don't address these gaps. What works is rebuilding the apprenticeship layer, structured exposure, guided practice, feedback for the exact situations where young professionals currently stall. And here's the business case. At leadership level, the sell isn't confidence. The sell is speed to independent performance. A confident early career employee is faster to ramp, clearer under pressure, better in meetings, less management intensive, more resilient to ambiguity, and promotable sooner. The organisation's already paying for this gap through delayed delegation, overchecking, slow decisions. Managers becoming babysitters and high attrition are the ones who need to hear this most. Almost everyone else focuses on protecting Gen Z. The organisations that will win are the ones that focus on equipping them. Gen Z doesn't need more support, they need more skill. Confidence isn't a mindset, it's earned through behaviour. And the modern apprenticeship gap was broken by COVID, remote work, and lean organisational structures. It can be rebuilt if you're leading teams with early career professionals and you're seeing this gap. I'd love to hear what's working for you. Drop me a comment below. And if you want to go deeper on this, how to actually build a system that closes the apprenticeship gap, subscribe to the channel. I'll be sharing more on exactly that. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.